This day is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states. Hello and welcome to This Day from Radiotopia. My name is Jody Avirgan. This day, March 1811, a freedom fighter by the name of Henri Christophe, who had been a key player in the Haitian independence movement, ascends to the title of King of Haiti and installs a constitutional monarchy. The Kingdom of Haiti would not last for many years, a generation at most, and King Henri was the only monarch to rule the Kingdom of Haiti, and he has long been a fascinating and misunderstood character. We've discussed the Haitian Revolution on this show a bunch, talked about how it inspired slave rebellions here in the U.S., but let's talk about the kind of phase just after that, as Haiti builds its new country. And here we are talking about a freedom fighter turned king and what the U.S. made of a black king so close to its shores. Here, as always, Nicole Hammer of Vanderbilt and Kellie Carter-Jackson of Wellesley. Hello there.
Hello, Jody.
Hey there.
And our special guest for this episode is Marlena Daut, professor of French, African American Studies, and History at Yale. Her recently published book is The First and Last King of Haiti. It is all about Henri Christophe. Marlena, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
You have 3 jobs. And you wrote a book.
It's true.
Slow down. Well, speaking of ambitious people, that's a bad segue. But let's talk about Henri Christophe. But I guess maybe we should wind it back, a few years to the Haitian Revolution. We've talked about, the U.S., from a U.S. perspective, watching this revolution play out warily, to put it mildly. In the years after the Haitian Revolution, the revolution in this country was all about, we don't want more kings. How does it end up with a king?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because the revolution in Saint-Domingue, which becomes Haiti, is not about we don't want kings. And in fact, at various moments during the revolution, some of the revolutionaries like Toussaint Louverture, et cetera, kind of side with the royalists in Spain and elsewhere, because their goal is to get freedom. And so they're siding with whoever they think is going to be the person who's going to drive that forward. And they only end up, the freedom fighters of Saint-Domingue, siding with France, not because it's Republican, but because those Republicans have agreed to abolish slavery. So I think in terms of the general background, there isn't an antipathy toward monarchies, because they are watching what's happening in the United States, where the response to what's happening in Saint-Domingue is to strengthen slavery and make laws even harsher. And then they watch as Napoleon very quickly, under the French Republic, is able to reinstate slavery in Guadeloupe. So by the time we get to Dessalines in January 1804, he at first takes the title of Governor General, and that's the title that Louverture had. But of course, it was a colony, so it seemed inappropriate. And the military council gets together. They nominate him as emperor. He accepts and becomes Jacques I. But in October 1806, there's a conspiracy that forms against him in the southern part of Haiti, and he's assassinated. And so now there's this kind of crisis again of governance, of course, the head of state. And it's in the midst of this fracturing that the conversation about whether Haiti should be a republic or whether Haitians should have a monarchy. And so for a time, the republic idea seems to win. But then, of course, in March 1811, Christophe's counselors of state decide that what would be more stable actually would be to create a hereditary monarchy, but a constitutional one. So this is a really big and important issue that comes up, is that it must be constitutional.
I just have to say, I've been a fan of your work for a long time, and I've been really excited about this book because I feel like oftentimes, especially in the American context, we know who Toussaint Louverture is. You know, he sort of is like a George Washington kind of iconic person. We sort of know of a negative reputation of Dessalines. He's known as like the butcher of the whites and all of that. But we don't spend a lot of time talking about Christophe and the fact that he even plays a role in the American Revolution. Like, he has this long, vibrant, kind of rich, complicated life. and he doesn't become as much of a household name, I think. And so writing sort of a huge book like this about him and his work and his life is just really, really fascinating and welcomed. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading it.
Well, thank you so much. I have to say, I loved that you included the Haitian Revolution in We Refuse. I was so excited because I think that it's so important that the story of the Haitian Revolution is not just a story that it involves, Haitians and Haitian Americans and people from the Caribbean. Like, this is a part of broader global histories. And I think along those lines, Christophe was someone who, even though in his day, of course, everyone knew who he was, the King of Haiti. And so many people were fascinated by his life and they were writing about him. Today, he, interestingly enough, is one of the lesser known figures of the revolution, kind of eclipsed by, as you said, Toussaint Louverture for sure, Dessalines, especially in recent years. But Christophe was really important to the revolution as well. And so it's funny because when I first started writing the book, I actually thought I'm going to start basically with the kingdom because that's the part that I want people to know more about. But I realized in researching his life, actually, there's so many things people didn't really fully understand, including his participation in the American Revolutionary War at the Battle of Savannah. And so I just started at the beginning to really, hopefully, bring the nuance needed, I felt, to understand his life.
And he fought during the revolution with Haitians, but then also joined forces with the French at some point. So he's this sort of Zelig character in an interesting way, but also like sort of a celebrity, just like a very striking character. It sticks out to me that newspapers would describe him as a sort of elegant Hercules, and he was, good-looking guy, strapping person. I mean, he really kind of had this cult of personality, it seems like.
For sure. I have an almost 14-year-old son, and he would say Christophe has Riz. So
Riz, yeah.
Riz.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm glad you.
I just felt like you wanted to, and so I was like, I'm gonna go for it. But it's true that in the beginning part of the book, in the prologue, I talk about all these Black actors who wanted to play Christophe, and some of them got the chance. And it's so interesting to me that Paul Robeson, when he was approached about playing Toussaint Louverture, which he did eventually play Toussaint on stage, he heard about Christophe and was like, no, I want to play him. And I think it's because the idea is so fascinating that he didn't just, the way he's been caricatured, he didn't just put a crown on his head and then prance around in a robe. He created an entire system of nobility, laws, and governance. He had this 1812 book of laws called the Code Henri. It's incredibly complex, and it really organizes society. Even his detractors said that, it was a great system if only he had been able to put it into place. One of his biggest detractors, a Haitian writer named Charles-Hérard Dumel, who lived in the South and was very anti-Christophe, said, it was a great society on paper. The school teacher for Christophe's son, a British fellow named William Wilson, he said Christophe was a great philosopher. He created this idea and he didn't have the means to carry it forward or the wherewithal. And I mean, that also speaks to some of his earlier participation in the revolution, where he gets an idea and it's not necessarily a good one. He believes that Napoleon's forces aren't going to try to reinstate slavery. And so he briefly joins with the French, realizes his fatal mistake. It's fatal for Toussaint Louverture, but it's also fatal for Christophe's son. And so in one of the chapters in the book, I talk about how during this time, Christophe sent his son Ferdinand, his eldest child, to be educated in France. And when Christophe rejoined with the Black freedom fighters who reconstituted themselves as the Armée Indigène, the indigenous army, the French retaliate and throw his son basically into an orphanage and leave him to die in the streets of Paris. So he suffers for this mistake. And these are things that I really wanted the reader to understand about him, because it's like, oh, he's wishy-washy or he's this despotic tyrant. But there's a person under here who experienced so many things and he did learn from that mistake. And his ardent hatred for the French throughout his entire reign, yes, is about what the French did in Saint-Domingue, but there's no way it isn't also about the personal losses that he experienced.
There are those personal losses, which I think are really important to understanding why leaders make the choices that they make. It also strikes me that foreign policy is playing an enormous role in his ability to get this government off the ground. The United States institutes an embargo pretty early on, I think. How is Christophe navigating those kinds of foreign policy challenges for this new country?
He has huge challenges to deal with because he has the United States on the one hand, where the merchants in the north really want to trade with Haiti. And they are doing so in the early years. In fact, they were doing so in the Adams presidency so much. This is what's angering France. He has Great Britain, and that's Haiti's greatest trading partner. So they have to make sure that they don't say anything about slavery in Jamaica, for example, or seem like they want to export the revolution. So they put all these clauses in the constitutions that say the Haitian government will only concern itself with affairs inside of Haiti. But at the same time, Christophe directs his military, they have all these ships, they've got all these weapons, to confiscate slave ships patrolling in the waters of Haiti. So the idea is if you enter Haitian waters and you have enslaved people, captive Africans in the hold on your ship, we can confiscate your ship. So he's got the trade embargo from the United States. He doesn't want to upset the United States because they're close by. He's got Great Britain. He doesn't want to upset the governor of Jamaica. They get into conflict at various times. And Christophe is also angering repeatedly the governor of Cuba because these slave ships from Spain are constantly entering Haitian waters and ships flying under the Portuguese flag. And he's confiscating them. And they're publicizing it in the newspapers. So people know what's going on. And they'll say things like, we released 145 of our unfortunate compatriots, the Africans, victims of the odious traffic in human flesh. They keep on doing it because they say you entered Haitian waters and there cannot be any slaves here. So they've got to do this careful dance, which also involves France. France, during this entire time of his reign, is trying to restore Saint-Domingue, which was their euphemism for trying to bring back slavery and colonialism. So this is possibly one of the most difficult scenarios a person could imagine ruling.
Before we get going with today's show, I want to give a shout out to another show in the Radiotopia family, Radio Diaries. For over 25 years, Radio Diaries has been creating sound-rich personal stories on history and beyond, and now they have a new mini-series. It's called Making Waves. This series is right up my alley. It is stories about 3 controversial broadcasters in American history, who each used their microphone in different ways. One to warn, one to rile, and one to preach. And today, they are largely forgotten. There's a black preacher who reached millions on the airwaves before the Civil Rights Movement, a woman who tried to warn the public of Hitler's rising power, and the talk show host who first proved that outrage sells.
Sometimes we get people on there who disagreed with him and would fight with him. Actually, he liked that.
I mean, if you were a Broadway play, you'd be a flop.
I'm not a Broadway play.
But you're a flop.
You can listen to all 3 episodes of Making Waves on the Radio Diaries podcast and find out lots more at radiodiaries.org. A quick word about Up First from NPR. Breaking news, as you've probably noticed, is pretty broken. You're constantly doom scrolling on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, or X, or whatever we're calling it, and maybe you feel a little bit of, I'm over it, I'm over the news. Well, if this sounds like you, I recommend that you listen to the Up First podcast from NPR. You get everything you need to know in an easy 15-minute update. Look, if you listen to this show, it is very likely that you follow the news and you care about politics, just like me. But I think one of the best choices you can make is decide how to engage with the news. And Up First is a perfect way to distill down to just the information you need to help you understand the news without getting overwhelmed and feeling that sense of news paralysis. Up First is national and international. There's facts and information, but there's also personality and analysis. Start your day every day with Up First. Change the way that you consume the news. Listen now to the Up First podcast from NPR. This episode is brought to you by Quince. Folks, it is officially time to start thinking about refreshing your wardrobe for the spring, maybe even leveling up with a little affordable luxury. Well, Quince is here to help. Quince offers a range of high-quality items at prices within reach. I'll tell you the section of Quince that I'm most excited about, which might tell you something about where my head's at. There's a section on the site called The Vacation Shop. I just ordered a new pair of sunglasses from there. They have an Italian leather sling for under $100, hats, cases, even luggage if you want. I have made a vow to travel in linen and only linen, so I've stocked up on a couple European utility shirts, $45. That's it. And a new pair of nice-looking board shorts, $40. So I am all set for my summer travels. If you've got your eye on all the fun that comes with warm weather, go ahead and give Quince a shot. Go to quince.com/thisday for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/thisday to get free shipping, 365-day returns. Quince.com/thisday.
I think it's really interesting to me on an American side to also think about American leadership, Thomas Jefferson, who's like Secretary of State, who's overseeing the Louisiana Purchase as a result of the Haitian Revolution because of Napoleon is broke and trying to pay for his own debts. But also Thomas Jefferson's sort of navigation of Haiti. He doesn't necessarily want to acknowledge or give diplomatic recognition to Haiti. Part of that is because he himself is a slaveholder and is sympathetic to the system of slavery, if you will. And also he's conflicted because he has this relationship with France and has always also sort of been like a Francophile and someone who's trying to be in solidarity with France. And so how he navigates his relationship with Haiti is interesting. Can you talk about sort of how he interacts with Christophe?
Yeah, I mean, at the base level, he doesn't interact with him. Like, he refuses to interact with any of Haiti's leaders. Dessalines famously sent Jefferson a letter. And of course, Jefferson is not going to directly respond to this because if he does, it is to sort of de facto recognize Haitian sovereignty and independence. So as long as Haiti or Saint-Domingue is a colony, there's conversations that can go back and forth between government officials and Haiti. But as soon as it's Haiti, now there's going to be not just silence, but as we talked about before, the embargo, but also the Haitian case is embarrassing to Jefferson. It is embarrassing to him because, you know, there's that famous Jefferson letter at the end of his life where he's talking about this is for future generations to decide. It's like he had decades of being vice president. He had his entire presidency to put in place policies that would end slavery in the United States. And he chose not to do that and not to advocate for that. And here we have in the Haitian Constitution unequivocal statements. We do not have reference to 3/5 of people. We don't have the euphemisms the French use, which are laws in place before and after the revolution, right? Where the before is slavery and the right. So that's how they get around actually using the word slavery in their constitutions or decrees. And then there you have Haiti. And even under the fractured governments of Pétion and Christophe, they say slavery is forever abolished. There can be no slaves here. Like there's no servitude in this land. They put in all these clauses just in case anybody is going to misunderstand this. And I really think this is what is embarrassing. You know, the work of Leslie Alexander in Fear of a Black Republic, the press was reporting on these constitutions. They were, the U.S. press, they were saying, they noticed that this was strong, clear, and unequivocal language. So what does the President of the United States do in the face of this is institute a trade embargo that is also kind of a way to silence Haiti. Right, because how is news going to get from Haiti to the United States? It came on those ships. But the thing is, he couldn't stop the ships. They did it anyway. There was an illegal trade. And then there are, of course, other ships coming from Great Britain. So you see the U.S. newspapers say lately from London, and it's news about Haiti because it came through this other channel. You couldn't stop it. Yeah. It's so clear when we look at the press and when we look at, you know, people's accounts of and see what they knew at the time period.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how this all comes to an end, because I don't know that it was inevitable that this wasn't going to be the model for Haiti. So why does it not work.
You mean when Henri takes power, he doesn't say, "I'm going to be the first and last king of Haiti"? That's the title
Would
of
have
the
made a
book.
much longer book title.
Right. He definitely does not. It's, and it wasn't inevitable. The Kingdom of Haiti was, on the facade. The facade of it is this is a place of huge prosperity, right? So the king has this huge palace called Sans Souci, which means without worry in French. They're holding these parties there. The palace is known for its unique domed cathedral, its fountains. It's this luxurious, beautiful place that people are writing about. He also has a huge fortress called the Citadelle Henri in his day, Citadelle La Ferrière. Now, it's the largest fortress in North America. You can still visit it if you can make your way all the way up. It's on one of the highest mountain peaks of Haiti, and it was meant to protect Haiti against foreign invaders. So by all accounts, it looks like this is the most stable place in the Caribbean. His is the more stable government than Pétion's. And I say that because Pétion dies in March 1818. And then there's a real question of, what's going to happen. But a man named Jean-Pierre Boyer comes to power and is able to reserve the republic in the South. But this could have been another moment where the North and the South reunite. Christophe wanted that to happen, and it didn't. But Boyer, he really wanted recognition from France. And so this is one problem that Christophe is going to continue to face, is now Boyer is trying to actually openly negotiate with the French king, Louis XVIII, and is floating repeatedly this question of the indemnity. And Christophe is adamantly against this. And the French are plotting during this time, saying, we've got to further deepen these divisions. And those divisions do get deepened. And I actually think there's more research needed on the role that France was playing in exacerbating these tensions, which come to a head after Christophe suffers a stroke in August 1820. So now those who are a little suspicious of him, those who turned on him, they kind of see this opening. He's partially paralyzed. And I think one of the big mistakes that the kingdom makes is they don't report on this information to the people. So they have this newspaper where they are able to spread news about what's going on throughout the country. But of course, that makes the king seem weak. And his entire rule was about seeming to be strong. But in September of that same year, he starts to get better. This happens sometimes when people suffer a stroke, the brain begins to heal. He gets better. He's walking. He can ride his horse. He's talking. He's trying to govern, but the conspiracy is so far gone by that point. And it erupts in October 1820. And Christophe's, you can tell his brain is still not fully healed. At first, he doesn't really believe it. He's just completely in denial. Like, no, everyone loves me. They haven't turned on me. He even sends his son, and his son has to report back and say, no, they're saying, long live the Republic in the streets of the kingdom. And this would have gotten them executed at another moment in Christophean history. Yeah. And so on October 8th, 1820, he takes his life in the night. He doesn't want to go out like Dessalines and be assassinated.
Wow.
Is it true he shoots himself with a silver bullet? Is that
he in the book, I talk about how he doesn't, but that was the lore. This newspaper woman at the end of the 19th century kind of created this entire fabulated tale about all the horrible things he did, and that in the end, like a werewolf, he's got to kill himself with a silver bullet. But it was a regular lead one.
probably the thing that all the actors caught on to and said, "Oh, I want to play this guy." That's a
very very dramatic, very dramatic.
All right, well, let's take a step back as we wrap up, and I think listeners know we've talked about it on the show, but the story of Haiti has been for generations and centuries a kind of country of deep instability and also sort of being actively undermined by external forces. And so I'm just curious, just in the wake of the revolution, you're painting this picture. How does it either set a path or connect a dot to where the country is now, or the kind of intervening, hundreds of years of Haitian history? Simple question, I know.
Yes, very simple. But
bring it to today.
But in a way, I don't even have to go that far from Christophe's rule to bring it to today, right? To hit on a kind of node on the timeline. Because in 1825, Boyer, I mentioned he really wants recognition from France. He agrees to pay France 150 million francs as the price of France's recognition of Haitian sovereignty. And this is a dramatic change from his earlier stance where he's, saying they would pay a smaller amount, but France had been insisting, nope, you have to be at least a protectorate. And suddenly the new French king, Charles X, who was the brother of Louis XVIII, he comes to power and he does an about-face on the French side and sends all these warships with all these cannons to the island. And, the most important thing that the French do there is not the threat of war, actually. In the documents where they lay out what the policy for the indemnity is, they say, if they don't agree, we will blockade their ports and they will essentially starve to death. And so this was the situation that Boyer faced, which on the face of it looks like, oh, sign this or go to war, which is bad enough. But the other part is this is going to be an economic war. And that economic war has been waged and continues to be waged against Haitians, creating a debtor nation where there wasn't one before. Even foreign commentators before this talked about how Haiti was possibly the only nation in the quote unquote modern world of their time that didn't have any debts to other nations because none of the other nations would lend them any money, but they also didn't need it. And so now we see...
And an extremely high quality of life.
Yes.
That like Haiti was a great place to live, a great place to be.
Yes. And people wanted to go there. They wanted to travel. They wanted to visit and see how this society was being set up. And so to me, it's an orchestrated attack on Haitian sovereignty through economics to position Haiti's leaders throughout the 19th century as in the position of either playing with the world nicely with the capitalist world powers, or Haitians will suffer the consequences, and them as well. Whenever you look at the coups d'etats, the succession of coups d'etats in the 19th century, Haitian historians repeatedly insist you look behind far enough, you will see foreign hands pulling the strings. Whether that was France initially, then the United States, then Germany near the end of the 19th century, then, of course, the United States again with the U.S. occupation and throughout the rest of the 20th century. And I don't think it's about blaming. It's about understanding and explaining that none of this was inevitable, and it wasn't a conspiracy either. It was done in the open. It was literally U.S. foreign policy. And that continues to be the case today. U.S. foreign policy is we don't want Haitians to come to the United States. We have to do everything possible to make sure that doesn't happen, at the same time as insisting that Haitians need to provide a market for U.S. rice or whatever products the United States has a surplus of at any given moment.
Yeah. Really fascinating. Well, there's so much more here. We will leave it there. Of course, there's a whole book for you to dive into, folks. But Marlena Dow of Yale, congratulations on the book. The new book is The First and Last King of Haiti. When it gets optioned and we get a movie, are we thinking Idris Elba or maybe go younger with Michael B. Jordan? Who's got the Riz?
It is so funny that you say Idris Elba. I literally have a slide. I have this with Christophe, and I have him side by side, and I say Idris Elba was, British accent. Like
that's true.
Yes, it's perfect. It's perfect. Let's do it.
That guy's got nothing on his plate. Let's do it. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Nicole Hemmer, thanks to you as always.
Thank you, Jody.
And Kellie Carter-Jackson, thanks to you.
My pleasure.
Radiotopia from PRX.